Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something that literally keeps our modern digital world spinning. We're going to demystify exactly how our personal data, our bank details, and our most confidential communications actually stay safe out there in the absolute wild west of the public internet. We're breaking down the architecture of network security.
Think about this for a second. How on earth do we secure trillions of pairs of interacting computers on a completely public network? When you really sit and think about that scale, it is just mind-boggling. We aren't talking about a couple of mainframes locked in a basement anymore. The internet was fundamentally built to connect any computer anywhere to any other computer. It's an incredibly open architecture, which is amazing for sharing information, but it is an absolute nightmare for security. To defend an environment like that, network engineers had to invent a multi-layered defense system.
So to make sense of this massive challenge, it helps to look at a secure network as a modern digital fortress. And this fortress relies on three main pillars: data security, access security, and system security. Let's get right into it.
Pillar number one is data security. This is essentially the secret language of the internet, ensuring that before your data even leaves the safety of your device, it's scrambled.
The foundation of this secret language usually starts with Symmetric Key Cryptography. This is an encryption method where the exact same shared secret key is used by both the sender and the receiver. You can think of it like a single physical key that both locks and unlocks a specific lockbox. Algorithms like the Data Encryption Standard, or DES, and the more modern Advanced Encryption Standard, AES, use this method. Now, symmetric cryptography is the industry standard for speed. It processes data incredibly fast, but there's a huge catch. The key itself is just a secret string of bits, and the two parties have to somehow figure out how to safely share that exact same key across a public network before they can communicate securely.
So how do you securely share a secret key with a server you've never met? That is exactly where asymmetric key cryptography, or public key cryptography, comes in. This approach uses two entirely different keys. One is a public key, which you can just hand out to the entire world, and it's used only to encrypt the data. The other is a private key, which you keep completely secret, and that's the only thing that can decrypt the data. The RSA algorithm is a really famous example of this. It relies on mind-bendingly complex prime number math, making it virtually impossible for an attacker to guess your private key, even if they have your public key and a copy of the encrypted text. When you put these two types of secret messengers side by side, you can really see the trade-offs. Symmetric key is blazing fast, but it has that glaring vulnerability of the shared secret. Asymmetric key gives us this brilliant mathematically secure system of separate public and private keys, but it requires a massive amount of computational power. Because of this, real-world secure protocols usually combine both. They use the slower, highly secure asymmetric math just to safely exchange a symmetric key, and then they switch over to the ultra-fast symmetric key to encrypt the rest of the conversation.
All right, so our data is scrambled and secure. Now for the second pillar, access security. It's time to guard the gates. There's this fantastic quote from network pioneer Andrew S. Tanenbaum, who wrote, "Networking purists consider firewalls to be a blemish on the architecture of the internet." Why a blemish? Well, remember that the internet was designed in very strict, distinct layers: network, transport, application. Firewalls are technically network layer devices, but for them to actually do their jobs, they have to cheat. They have to peek up into the transport and application layers. They literally violate the standard architectural rules of the internet and pretend to be a broken wire to block bad traffic. That makes them fragile and honestly sometimes a pain to deal with, but they are absolutely essential for survival.
Now, you've basically got two main ways to guard these gates. A network layer firewall is kind of like a security guard checking ID cards at the door. It quickly glances at the IP addresses and port numbers on a packet and makes a lightning-fast allow or drop decision, but it doesn't look inside the bag. An application layer firewall, on the other hand, is a full baggage search. It silently eavesdrops, pieces all the TCP packets back together, and inspects the actual content inside, checking for things like forbidden URLs or malicious payloads. The trade-off here is pretty clear. The network layer is incredibly fast but superficial, while the application layer is highly thorough but introduces massive performance drag.
That brings us to our third and final pillar: system security. Because despite our best cryptography and our toughest firewalls, we have to prepare for the worst.
Seriously, what happens when an attacker slips past the gate? Because they will.
Hackers are sophisticated. Maybe they exploit a zero-day software vulnerability, or maybe an employee just accidentally downloads a malicious file that totally bypasses the firewall. When that happens, we need an internal security patrol actively hunting these intruders down inside the fortress. That's the role of intrusion detection systems, or IDS, and your classic antivirus software.
So how does an intrusion detection system actually work? It operates quietly in the background of your network, mostly using two methods. First, it checks for attacking signatures, which basically means it compares all network traffic against a database of known malicious code, kind of like scanning the crowd for faces on a wanted poster. Second, it looks for anomalous behaviors. Say, for example, a computer in the HR department suddenly tries to download terabytes of data from a highly classified engineering server at 3 in the morning. The IDS is going to instantly flag that as unusual, unauthorized internal activity.
Tuning these internal patrols is a massive headache for network admins. It's a very delicate balancing act. If you rely purely on known signatures, you risk false negatives, meaning a brand new, never-before-seen attack slips by completely undetected. But if you crank up the anomaly detection to be ultra-paranoid, you get hammered with false positives, where perfectly normal, harmless network traffic gets flagged as an attack, absolutely overwhelming the IT team. Finding that sweet spot is a constant battle.
And all of this brings us to a massive real-world roadblock for everything we've talked about today, the performance trade-off.
Because every single one of these security measures, the math-heavy encryption, the deep baggage searches at the firewall, the internal signature hunting, they all come with a hefty computational price tag. When you look at the raw processing times, the reality is pretty stark. Your standard antivirus program can eat up around 1,000 nanoseconds just to process a single byte of data. Meanwhile, a dedicated intrusion detection system might only take 10 nanoseconds per byte. So why the massive gap between two systems that are both supposedly looking for malicious code? To answer that, let's take Snort, which is a super popular open-source IDS, and compare it to ClamAV, a common open-source antivirus. The difference all boils down to inspection depth. Snort is insanely fast because it uses a clever trick called a byte jump. It only bothers examining the content at very specific offsets in a packet's header, basically the usual hiding spots for attacks. ClamAV, on the other hand, is forced to do a deep, exhaustive inspection of absolutely all attachment content. When you multiply that deep inspection across gigabytes or terabytes of network traffic, it creates a massive processing bottleneck.
So the big takeaway from all this source material is that network security is and always will be a balancing act between safety and performance. As the sheer volume of internet traffic continues to scale up exponentially, defenders literally can't rely on software alone to do deep packet inspections without causing the entire network to grind to a halt. The texts point out that the future of this field relies heavily on hardware acceleration and specialized multicore processors designed to handle these intense cryptographic and string matching algorithms on the fly.
I want to leave you with a really provocative thought from the text to wrap up this explainer. Because as our computers get faster, so do the hackers who are constantly trying to crack the complex math of our asymmetric keys. The ultimate frontier in all of this might just be quantum cryptography and the implementation of truly unbreakable one-time pads, where the laws of physics themselves secure the data, rather than just really hard math. Will that finally end this decades-long arms race between hackers and defenders? Or is it just going to change the battlefield entirely? It's a pretty fascinating question to ponder as we keep building and defending our digital fortresses. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and keep exploring.